Welcome to the inaugural Policy Committee meeting on Tuesday, December the 10th, 2024. I will be chairing the meeting until the election of the Chair of Policy Committee is completed. Lucky you. A few housekeeping items before we begin. A reminder, this meeting is being recorded on Teams, and the recording will be posted on HCDSB's website. Please mute your laptops and use the boardroom microphones. Comme ça. When it's your turn, please use the raise hand function in Teams if you would like to speak. We'll endeavor to respond quickly. I kindly request that the land acknowledgement be played.
Halton, as we know it today,
is rich in the history and modern traditions
of many First Nations and the Métis.
From the lands of the Anishinaabe
to the Attawandaron,
the Haudenosaunee,
and the Métis.
These lands surrounding the Great Lakes
are steeped in Indigenous history.
As we gather today
on these treaty lands,
our Catholic social teachings
call us in solidarity
with our Indigenous brothers and sisters.
So honor and respect the four directions: lands, waters, plants, animals, and ancestors
that walked before us.
All these wonderful elements of creation exist,
gifted to us by our Creator God. We acknowledge and thank
the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation
for being stewards of this traditional territory.
Let us begin our meeting with an opening prayer. Please join me in the sign of our faith. Son, Holy Spirit, amen. During Advent, we are called to seek the light of Christ, even in the midst of darkness. The prophets assure us that the darkness will not overcome us. They call us to watch for light. We are called to wait in hope, to trust in God. As we make this Advent journey in faith, we invite God's light to dispel the darkness. We ask for the grace to let go of any burdens we may carry in our hearts as we search for this light. We ask for the gift of attentiveness, that we may truly see God's presence within and among us. May our faith be renewed so that we may be a light for others. In the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So again, welcome. If you take a look at the agenda that is before you, are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, may I have a mover to approve the agenda? Okay. Chair Duarte, a seconder. O'Hearn Chanada. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, looking online here, we're good. So the motion passes and the agenda is approved. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare this evening? Thank you. Item 4, delegations. There are no delegations this evening. And we're at 5, approval of the minutes. Are there any errors, additions, deletions, or revisions that need to be made to the minutes of November the 12th, 2024, where we last gathered as a policy committee? So again, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 12th policy committee? May I have a mover? Carabella. And a seconder? Trustee Agnew, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. And the motion passes and these minutes are approved. Item 6, the election of the chair of the policy committee. And that term is from this evening, December the 10th, 2024 through December 2025. We have the date, or whatever the date is for that meeting. As this is our first policy committee meeting after the November the 19th, 2024 inaugural board meeting, we require a trustee to assume the position of chair of the policy committee. Should a vote by ballot become necessary this evening, I will conduct the election. Superintendent Bakaich will act as a scrutineer while I tabulate the ballots. Superintendent Bakaich will distribute the envelopes with the blank ballots. Are there any trustees here participating electronically? And I do believe we have one. Trustee Powell. And I see your hand up, Chair. Oh, got it. Okay, you're just eager. Okay, good. Trustees electronically, yes. So, okay, and we might, if that's the case, then we'll do an email to scrutineer, Superintendent Bakaich. I will now ask for nominations to come forward. This is for the chair of this committee. Sorry, and I've got to look. Trustee Duarte.
Chair, I'd like to nominate Trustee O'Hearn Chanada for the position of Chair of Policy.
O'Hearn Chanada. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you. Trustee Agnew seconds that. Does Trustee O'Hearn Chanada accept the nomination for the position of Chair of the Policy Committee? Thank you very much, Trustee O'Hearn Chanada. Are there any other nominations for the Chair of the Policy Committee? Are there any other nominations to come forward? And last call for nominations of the Policy Chair Committee Chair. All right. Seeing no further nominations, may I request a mover and a seconder to close the nominations for chair of the policy committee. Trustee Duarte is our mover. Seconder. Saunders. Sorry. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, that is carried. Okay, so Trustee Duarte has moved that Trustee O'Hearn Chanada be nominated for the position of Chair of the Policy Committee for the period December 10th, tonight, to the first board meeting in December 2025. The nomination was seconded by Trustee, my memory serves me, Agnew. All in favor? Oh, so by the order.
Favor.
Congratulations, Trustee O'Hearn Chanada. I invite the Chair O'Hearn Chanada, to come take your position and preside over the remaining of this meeting. I now will leave you to that. I bid you adieu. We will now take 5 short minutes to allow for this transition.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for bringing me to this chair this evening. We're going to continue. So our next item on tonight's agenda is item 6.2. Trustees, could I please have someone move that the Policy Committee recommends that Policy I-07, Protection of Privacy, be forwarded to the December 17th, 2024 regular board meeting for approval? May I please have a mover? Thank you, Trustee Agnew. May I please have a seconder? Trustee Duarte. Privacy Officer Mark Grisiuk, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The privacy policy I-07, protection of privacy, was reviewed as part of the regular policy review cycle. The associated policies and procedures have been updated, and the purpose and application and scope have been updated to reflect current and clarifying language. The definitions, principles, and requirements have also been updated with simplified language to improve coherence. We also did some minor housekeeping changes throughout the document. And with that, I will take questions.
Thank you so much. Trustees, now I will open the floor to any questions. Trustee Carabella, I see your hand up, and then Trustee Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just noticed a small typo thing on page 4 of 5 under responsibilities. That be with the okay, and do you think it's
No, I'm off. Oh, I'm off.
So under responsibilities, it just says the last phrase, Municipal Freedom Information Protection Privacy Act. So it's just missing the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. That's all.
Thank you. We can put make that update.
Thank you, Trustee Carabella. So Mark, that you're okay to just add that? That's just a minor correction?
That's very simple change.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Trustee Carabella. Do you have a follow-up?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question regarding private medical information and if this policy governs that. So I'm thinking of an instant where, for example, public health does the suspensions and the students' public health, their health information is inadvertently made public knowledge. And I'm wondering how that's factored into this policy. That's just one example. There's other ones like in-school vaccinations and things like that.
Thank you, Trustee Murphy.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Anything so that if it's medical information governed by the health unit within Halton region, they would be responsible for the administration of that policy or that specific issue.
Thank you, Mark. Do you have a follow-up or clarification?
Yeah, just to clarify, I'm trying to understand because inadvertently the board is exposing people's personal medical information through the process. So where's the onus on us to create somewhere a way that doesn't happen?
Can you provide an example as to where it's being exposed by the board?
Two. One is in the case where students are being suspended, they're being kind of rounded up, as my understanding. When their medical exemption isn't submitted in time, they have to be sent to the office. So inadvertently, their private medical information is being made public.
How? So sorry, I don't see how it's being made public there. They're being rounded up, and where is the medical information being exposed in that roundup?
The assumption is that they're not vaccinated. That's why they're being suspended.
Oh, so we're talking about vaccination. That's if that's a mandatory requirement, we could take a look at the process, but when you're saying public rounding up, that's taking place within the school. Is that correct? So can you explain? Yeah, explain that.
I'm not physically there when it happens, but I know like in that circumstance, public health is the one who is determining that there's a suspension that needs to take place, but it's happening in our building. So in some cases, these children may not even know that their parents have forgotten to put an exemption. And I'm just thinking, like, is that fair that is there a way to mitigate that process? I don't know if schools are already doing it. That's why I'm asking, because I'm not physically there when it happens. But that is private medical information that, even though it's not being said, the information is being made obvious to those in the building. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Thank you,
Get my
Trustee Murphy.
point?
Hold on one second. We're going to go through the process. So over to you, Superintendent Bakait, because we're talking process and procedure now.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the question, Trustee Murphy. So the whole process in general and the action of it is governed by ISPA. That's another act. It's the Immunization of School Pupils Act. We work in partnership with Halton Public Health, as Privacy Officer Grizzy mentioned. In terms of that process, the children they are at a certain point called to the office to be provided with specific letters. But before that, parents are notified, and that process starts fairly early about the requirements, and that communication goes directly from Home Public Health to parents. We do distribute communication as well as per Home Public Health, but if they are called to the office, it's very, there's a lot of care taken to ensure that, it's very private, and they're addressed specifically about what the requirements are. So they're not called over the PA to say, MUKH, you haven't got your immunization, so you're going to be suspended. But we do work very closely, and we meet often, monthly, with Halton Public Health to work through this process. And we're underway as well this year, so it will continue. But the principals are very, very careful and delicate about how to address the students.
Thank you, Superintendent Bakait. Trustee Vice Chair Murphy? Nope. No? Okay, awesome. I see Trustee Carabella. I don't see anybody else's hand up. So now I will take this to okay, Trustee Dwart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question here. Superintendent Bakach mentioned about ISPA. Would that be required to be a reference in this document? Would it be appropriate to have that as a reference? It's not here in the reference. I'm wondering if that would make sense.
Thank you, Trustee Dwart. Over to you, Superintendent Bakach.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to defer to Mark Grzyk about this. Mark, is it covered under?
Sorry, I missed the acronym. You
might not be able to hear.
Yeah, yeah, something cut out when you were saying which document or policy you're referring to.
Trustee Duarte was asking us whether we should add ISPA.
VISPA. So VISPA. Yeah, what's that? Sorry, I'm
ISPA, the immunization.
Oh, that right. I don't see it as a document that will add. We already have PHIPAA on here, so I don't see that. I think that might actually create more confusion if we add that particular reference to this policy. That's my opinion.
Thank you. I see Trustee Murphy, your hand is up. Trustee Garabella, your hand. Oh, thank you.
I just thought of another question.
Okay, Trustee Garabella.
Thank you. In regards to what Trustee Murphy was bringing up, so when you have a classroom situation and you have the students going to the gym for vaccinations, or some don't go, some do go. Is privacy maintained or during that situation?
Thank you,
Thank
Trustee
you.
Carabello.
No, sorry.
Hang on. There might be a delay. So thank you, Trustee Carabella. I'll defer it to Superintendent Bakaic at this point.
Chair, Trustee Carabell, thank you for the question, and I'll start in case I miss anything Mark can add, but are you talking about the grade 7 immunizations? Yeah, and so the first process is having consent from parents to allow for the immunization, and they're notified of how it is conducted. Typically, the grade 7s go to the gym, they're all together. And the parents are notified that that's the process. In actual fact, they like it that way because they're all together and they feel supported. Certainly a student who we don't have consent for does not attend immunization.
Thank you to Superintendent Bakaic. Do you have a follow-up, Trustee Carabella?
Yes, the follow-up would be then is that student, but they stay in the classroom, and are they pointed out in any way, or is the teacher, if other kids ask about things, is the teacher trained to respect the privacy and not ask questions and things like that?
Thank you, Trustee Carabella.
Thank you. Yes, they are. Yeah.
It's treated all very discreetly.
Very. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other questions, I will now take this to a recorded vote of the main motion on item 6.2. Trustee Agnew. In favor. Trustee Duarte.
In favor.
Trustee Carabella.
In favor.
Trustee Kelly.
In favor.
Trustee Kennedy.
In favor.
Trustee Murphy.
Favor.
Trustee Powell online.
I am in favor.
Trustee Son. Trustee McGuire.
In favor.
I am also in favor. Unanimous. This policy will be brought forward to the December 17th, 2024 regular board meeting. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we're moving on from 6.2 to 6.3. This is our next agenda, policy I-46, trustee communications and correspondence to the board. Trustees, can I please have someone move that the policy committee recommends that policy I-46, trustee communications and correspondence to the board, be forwarded to the December 17, 2024 regular board meeting for approval. May I please have a mover?
I'll move it.
Trustee Murphy, may I please have a seconder? Trustee Duarte. Superintendent Bakaic, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And Andrea Swindon wasn't able to be here this evening, so I will take over for her. Trustees will recall that the policy came forward at the November 12th Policy Committee meeting with the amendments, including the revision to the title. It did go to our November 19th regular board meeting and was referred back to the Policy Committee for the additional amendment to the definitions. At that time, trustees requested that the personal information definition be added to this policy in alignment with policy I-07. So you'll notice that the two definitions are the same. So that amendment has been made, and no other amendments have been made.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Bakaic. Trustees, I will now open the floor if anyone has any questions. Seeing Trustee Carabella.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So I would like to refer my colleagues to page 3 of 5. The last bullet under requirements. I've spoken about this before, and we've had since legal advice, and things have changed, and now it's back here. I did want to propose an amendment to strike out the last section that says to be collected through the email sharing consent form. But actually, before I put that in as amendment, I would ask, because back that the 2 meetings ago or a meeting ago, it wasn't quite sure who was going to access it that information that's collected from that form, and who, how is it going to, yeah, and who has access to it, and where was it being stored?
Okay, Trustee Carabella, sorry, I'm not sure where we're at on this form. So Claudia, where are you pointing us to exactly?
It's page 3 of 5, under the requirements, the last bullet under requirements.
Trustee shall not use email addresses collected in their will. That one?
Yeah.
That bullet point? Okay. All right, so now we can see that up on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a question there, I think.
My question is for clarity on how the email sharing consent form is going to be used. And also, we, again, don't have a sample attached here.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Carabella. Director Klein?
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to take a look at Superintendent Bakai's chair to see if what process has been made on it and whether to what extent this is relevant.
Thank you, Trustee Carabella. I can start. I may have to call on Mark Grisiak for help, but I can, first off, the email sharing consent form would be stored in Laserfiche. So there would be very limited access to that document. The form itself is not included there because we haven't finalized approval of the policy. And so once the policy's been approved, Andrea will provide the link to the form.
Thank you, Superintendent Bakaj. Once the policy is approved, then it becomes part of procedure, and that's when the form will be created. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Trustee Carabella, do you have a follow-up or clarification?
Well, I would like to propose an amendment to take that off, and if it's accepted, if I have a seconder, then I'll explain why. So I would strike out, so I move to strike out to be collected through the email sharing consent form.
Okay, so just for clarification, Trustee Carabella, you just want to remove the form?
At this point.
At this point, okay. So you move that, so we'll need a seconder to discuss.
Second.
Trustee Saunders seconds it. I'll open the floor to discuss. Trustee Carabella?
Okay, so I'm asking for it to be withdrawn because, first of all, talking with constituents, even through correspondence, I guess it's coming from if I get somebody writes me an email and I end up talking with them, and I would ask them if they want to be part of a newsletter that I send out. So obviously about the newsletter I send out. So they give me verbal consent or written consent. But then I think that information should be, it's my information. It should be kept at my database or my information and not at HCDSB because it becomes my personal information. And I think that it protects privacy, my privacy about my communications outside the board emails, and also privacy for the person who gives consent to receive my newsletter. They also don't want, it's privacy for them not to have their name in some laser fiche here at HCDSB. I had some advice given to me by Mr. Grisiak regarding this from the past. And he says here, although the board controls its email system pursuant to a well-established line of jurisprudence, it is not ordinarily in custody or control of trustee constituency records. They are akin to personal records. So that's what I'm applying, what I'm appealing to, is that this information becomes my record keeping and not HCDSB's record keeping.
Thank you, Trustee Carabella. I think at this point, if you'll entertain me, Mark Grisiak, could you speak to that, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've also received some advice on this, and in this particular case, We're referencing any emails that are sent directly to your HCDSB account. And it's those emails that when you, when anyone happens to send them without getting consent, then we've actually collected that within our system. I strongly would disagree with that position, and I'm not recommending we remove that form from the current policy update.
Thank you. We can move on. Trustee Murphy, did you have a comment or question in regards to the amendment proposed?
No, not in regards to this.
Thank you. Trustee Kennedy.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Just have a question about, just lost the section here where it says trustees, here it is. Correspondence to and from trustees, page 3 of 5, will respond to correspondence within 2 business days and provide an estimated date of response. What about?
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I'm just, Trustee Kennedy, hold that thought. We got to stay focused on the amendment from Trustee Carabell about removing that form. So let's stay there and then keep that in your side pocket. Any other comments or anything to Trustee Carabell's amendment? Because if not, we'll vote on the amendment. Okay, seeing none. Sure, go ahead. You can close.
Can I respond to Mr. Grislick? So if I understood him correctly, he's talking about me responding to a person who's written to me at HCDSB email, and I can respond back at HCDSB email. I'm talking about if that person writes to me in HCDSB email, and we develop a relationship either way, if it's outside or meeting somewhere, and I tell them about my newsletter. If they'd like to be on it, they give me verbal consent. I can keep track of verbal consent. I can keep track of written consent, but it becomes my records and not HCDSB. Did I understand that correctly?
Mark, would you like to respond to that or clarify?
Yeah, so thank you, Madam Chair. You're looking at a scenario that took place a few years ago, and I'm specifically talking about when those emails come in to your HCDSB board. If you develop a relationship with community members outside, obviously we have no control over that, but we have to consider the various liability risks that are associated with communications that go out, and that are sometimes they go out. We have to be able to protect the board from and be able to prove that we have a process. So as I mentioned earlier, I strongly disagree with that change, and I'm recommending we keep this form in place. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mark. Trustee Murphy?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
As this conversation's happening, I'm thinking, if the trustee has already acquired consent from the sender, then the purpose of the email sharing consent, the information that is garnered from this consent form then becomes like an insurance policy for the board. Should a parent come and complain and say, so-and-so is sending me emails, I didn't consent to this? Is that I'm trying to understand the purpose, because if we're already committing to ensure we're getting express consent, then why the email sharing consent form?
Thank you, Trustee Murphy. Either to Superintendent Bakaich or Mark, just to explain the liability.
I'll defer to Superintendent Bakaich.
Thank you. Actually, I was going to defer to Mark on this one. I would say, to me, it goes both ways. Trustee Murphy, we want to ensure both for the protection of the trustee and protection of the sender that we have consent to share email addresses to share information. And so beyond what Mark has stated in terms of the requirements, there's limited access, if that's the concern, to the form. And I think beyond, I really don't know what else to add here in terms of the why, because I think Mark has explained why we need to follow this process.
Thank you, Superintendent Bakich. Trustee Murphy, do you have any clarification or follow-up?
No, I'm still not clear, but I appreciate the
Okay, thank you. Everyone that has their hands up, is it in regards to the amendment? Trustee Saunders, you're next in line.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the answer. So I think Trustee Carabella was saying that she has like a personal email exchange with somebody. Is that covered by this, or is this only emails we get through our HCDSB email? I'm not quite sure what just need some clarification on that.
Thank you, Trustee Saunders. Superintendent Bakich, can you help out?
Yeah, I think so. Trustee Saunders, it's email sent to your HCDSB email.
Thank you. Anyone else that has their hands up? No? Okay. Okay, looks like it's time to vote on the amendment that Trustee Carabella has put forward. So we're voting on the amendment to remove what's in highlighted yellow. So to remove to be collected through the email sharing consent form, okay? Trustee McGuire.
Oppose.
Trustee Saunders.
I'll say in favor.
Trustee Powell.
I'm opposed.
Trustee Murphy.
I'm in favor.
Trustee Kennedy.
In favor.
Trustee Kelly.
Opposed.
Trustee Carabella.
In favor.
Trustee Duarte.
Opposed.
Trustee Agnew.
Opposed.
I am also opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opposed, 4 in favor. So the amendment fails. Going back to the main motion without the strikeout and the highlight. And Trustee Kennedy, I did not forget about you. Over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just a question regarding correspondence to and from trustees. Trustees will review and respond to correspondence within 2 business days and provide an estimated date of response if an inquiry cannot be fully addressed within 5 business days of receipt. Just wondering, does that apply more to parents, students, constituents, or does it apply to any email? I tend to get some emails from third-party vendors, things of that nature. Are we required to respond to those third-party vendors as well?
Point of privilege, Madam Chair. Can we just see that up on the screen? Sorry,
Page
Claudia,
3,
just
page
so I
3
can.
of 5.
Sure. Yeah. No, of course. Yep.
Second bullet point there.
Trustees, okay, so we see it up there highlighted. So I think, Trustee Kennedy, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're looking for the scope of the meaning of this. What is the scope? So Superintendent Bakich.
Thank you, Chair. It's a good question, Trustee Kennedy. It would be correspondence from parent, guardian, possibly student, adult student. I'm presuming they might email you, but it could be from a stakeholder, someone who is soliciting business. It would really apply to.
Thank you, Superintendent Bakich. Trustee Kennedy, any follow-up? Okay, awesome. Trustee Saunders. Trustee Murphy?
Madam Chair. I have a question related to top of page 4. Should a trustee receive correspondence from a parent or guardian that contains personal sensitive information about their child, the correspondence will be forwarded to the appropriate family of school superintendent with a note indicating that the trustee will not be maintaining a copy of the email because it contains personal student information. There's 2 parts to this that I still don't feel clear on, and one is what constitutes personal sensitive information, but also just from a practical standpoint, I often keep a thread until I see a resolution. So could there be a timeline attached to this wherein it says like, because I wouldn't want to be left out of the loop and then just delete and then not be copied again on the resolution of the chain. Do you get what I'm saying? Could that be factored in somehow?
Trustee Murphy, thank you for the question. Mark, Chrissy, would you like to respond to that for feedback?
Yeah, so thank you, Madam Chair. It's an excellent question. And I think just, keep in mind that, uh, if there's a conversation going on, once that conversation is done, then I think that 2-day rule would apply. I say this because it's really protecting you from retaining those records. Transfer that over to the superintendent, and once the conversation is done. So I think that that's a reasonable ask for this policy.
Thank you very much, Mark. Trustee Murphy, do you need clarification to that?
So yes, something is going to be added in there to cover the completion of the chain of communication? Or is it assumed that we're to delete immediately? I just want to make sure I'm clear.
Thank you, Trustee Murphy. Either Superintendent Bakaich or Mark to respond to that?
We can certainly add a slight revision to this. It's really when the conversation is done. I mean, it's really hard to tell. I mean, it's not a best. It's never going to be perfect, is what I'm saying. So this is really in place to protect you from protect you from having to keep too much sensitive information in your email correspondence when it's not needed. You can always go back to the SO and ask for it.
Thank you for that response, Mark, because that's how I'm reading. I'm reading it as if as soon as you forward it to your appropriate superintendent, you're to delete that email if it has personal information.
Yeah, whereas I see it as there's really no timeline on that. So could I keep it in my inbox? Maybe it takes like a month to resolve. In the interim, would it be said that I'm storing personal information, even though I'm just sort of dog-earing it, like I'm earmarking it, waiting for a solution? Not to be, nitpicky, but that's sort of a system that
I mean, think about it's a good question, good point. When we look at what's reasonable with regard to, when that conversation is finished. So I'll defer further response and comments to Superintendent Bakaich.
Mark, over to Superintendent Bakaich.
Thank you, Chair. I think the reason why we added the definition for personal information was because of this question that trustees had about what actually constitutes personal student information. And so I think if you look at the definition, there are pieces of information that really, from what I understand in my work with Mark and actually in working with Andrea, trustees don't want to have record of information that parents may inadvertently share or not realize that you shouldn't have it. So I'm wondering if you think about a recent email where you've got, the issue of too much information. It doesn't mean that you're not going to continue to be informed about it. It means that you won't be in possession of the personal or sensitive information that's been, let's say, overshared. I know I hear what trustees are saying, like the concern is that you're not going to be able to track the email or keep track of the information. One option is, and this is where I'd ask Mark to weigh in, is trustees could maintain a copy of the email, but delete the student's personal information. Now, at the end of the day, you still have a copy of the email. It just makes it a little bit more, an extra step for you. But, there is further on in the policy, we do refer to the local trustee being kept apprised of development of the issue and the resolution of the issue by the superintendent. But I know that, the reason for that is because trustees shouldn't have, and you don't want to have, be in possession of record of student personal information.
Thank you, Superintendent Bakaich. I'm just going to move on because Trustee Agnew's in line, so I'll let Trustee Agnew speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just back up to the point that Trustee Kennedy had brought forward. I just had a question of clarification. And sorry, Claudia, I'm just not sure exactly where that is now. What was that point, Trustee Kennedy? You have it? Perfect. Thank you. I just wondered if this was also applicable from trustee to trustee, or when a committee emails a trustee, do the same rules apply with respect to an expectation on a reply?
Thank you, Trustee Agnew. Again, clarification on scope. Who would like to answer that one? Just Superintendent Bakaich.
I can start, but I see that Trustee Duarte may want to weigh in. This really is the scope of correspondence that trustees receive from parents, guardians, community members. Trustee to trustee, I don't know, I mean, perhaps I'll use it to.
That's fine. So
yeah.
I can remove the trustee to trustee. That's fine. I can address that separately. But what if it's a committee? So let's say we have a CIAC or a CPIC, or we have some committee that has corresponded with a trustee. What's the expectation and a response back from that trustee? Does it follow the same criteria? Or a stakeholder as well?
Thank you, Trustee Agnew. Superintendent Bakaich.
Thank you, Chair. I would say yes, Trustee Agnew. I would. It's because, like you said, that they're stakeholders, and the committees are mostly formulated, I think the ones you're referring to, by parents or community members. I would say, I mean, I again wouldn't have the bottom line on this. I'd have to defer to Trustee Duarte, but I would presume that the 2 business days and then following suit there if it needed more time to be addressed. But I'll
Thank you,
yield to
Superintendent Bakaich. Trustee Duarte.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I concur with Superintendent Bakaich. That's the way it should be. Because committees are made up of parents and stakeholders. This policy is meant for them.
Thank you. I think we clarified scope.
Is that clearly defined though there? Like, I just want to make sure that because there have been concerns raised previously with lack of communication back from trustees, sometimes from committee members. So does that need to be explicitly stated, or are we clear on that expectation?
Thank you, Trustee Agnew. I can speak to I understand that scope. This is correspondence to and from trustees. So to and from your stakeholders to trustees, whether it's individual or committees. My impression, I don't know if anyone agrees with me, but I think we do. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, Trustee Murphy or Trustee Kennedy, is that an old hand or new? Okay, Trustee Murphy.
Point of clarification, what was decided with this last point?
Was not colleague to colleague, but from stakeholders to trustees. So whether it's a committee or an individual stakeholder, that's the scope we're referring to, not between us. Us should be one day. Find up everyone. Okay. Trustee Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sorry.
Page 4, there's a bullet that says all Ministry of Education memorandums or communications addressed to the Director of Education, Chair of the Board of Trustees that are not of a confidential nature shall be shared through a hyperlink on the board meeting agenda package. So does that also include directives?
Thank you, Trustee Murphy. Superintendent Bakaich, I'm just going to defer back to you on that. You need to delegate it somewhere else. Feel free.
I can start and then defer to the director. Directives, do you mean like PPMs or from the ministry
or really just any, and I feel like that should say all Ministry of Education communications, because then it just covers.
Right, unless they're of a confidential nature.
Of course, yeah, right. Which is in there anyways.
Okay, I will defer to the director.
Director Klein?
Yeah, we don't get as much correspondence from the ministry as you might expect. I think Oxta probably powers them in that regard. But I would say that when it comes to the memoranda, they will have right on it. It would often have chair and me on it. And those for me are the clue that these would be things that are correspondence.
Thank you, Director Klein. Yes, Trustee Duarte.
Sorry, my hand is not up. Just to add to that, yes, correspondences are being added to the package. They're not too many as, but there's something else you're looking for, PPMs, they should be added there.
Thank you, Trustee Dort. Trustee Murphy, I'm going to move on now. I think. Okay, Trustee Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just back to the correspondence section again. Just wondering, did the 2 business days, assume that came out from the policy meeting group, is that in relation to the Better Schools and Outcomes Act? Like 2 days, why specifically 2 days?
Good question, Trustee Kennedy. Superintendent Bukaich.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it refers to PPM 170.
Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for the answer. Trustee Kennedy, follow-up or clarification? No? Okay, Trustee Carabella.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, regarding going back to the one about the confidential PPMs, if they are confidential, will they come to us in the in-camera board meeting?
Thank you for the question, Trustee Carabella. Director Klein.
I would think if they reflect through your chair, sorry, if they connect with the parameters of in-camera, like we know the ones in terms of budget, in terms of staffing and things like that, then yes. But I'll talk to the chair in terms of in-camera.
Thank you. Trustee Dort.
Madam Chair, yes, I think we have received a couple over a year, and I have forwarded to trustees marked confidential. I'm not sure it should be in the agenda, but trustees get it as marked confidential. But I don't know if we should be adding it into the package when it is confidential, but trustees hear about it.
Thank you, Trustee Dort. Trustee Carabella, do you have a follow-up?
No, I would like that it's put into the. We received something by email that would be confidential, but we don't have a chance to discuss it as a group. So I think bringing it into in-camera could be beneficial.
Thank you, Trustee Carabella. I think as Director Klein, as long as it meets the criteria for an in-camera topic, right? If it doesn't meet that criteria, you can't pull it into in-camera.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just add on another thought to that, just to respond to Trustee Carabella. There are some items meant only for trustees which are marked confidential, and I don't think it should go to the larger group. We can deal with that on a case-by-case basis. But
Okay. I have Trustee Murphy's hands up, Trustee Kennedy and Trustee Carabella. Are those a trick? Pardon? Okay. All right. Trustee Kennedy? Old one? Okay.
So
okay.
Just to clarify, do you think that should be written in there, that some confidential correspondence to trustees be forwarded to an in-camera correspondence section? Because we have a correspondence section in our in-camera.
Trustee Carabella, I will defer to either Director Klein or Trustee Dort.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Trustee Dort.
I think we can add confidential stuff if it pertains to the larger group of individuals who meet in camera. If it's pertaining to trustees only, I don't know. But it's something concerning trustees. I think it should be only trustees, not the larger group. Build up trustees.
Superintendent Bukaich.
Sorry, I was just going to clarify. I agree with what Trustee Dort is. Because we all gather in camera, and if we're not to be privy to that information, I'm presuming, I'm not aware, but I'm presuming that communication correspondence that is specific for trustees of a confidential nature would be sent to you, by way of email.
Thank you, Chief Superintendent Bukaich. Trustee Carabella, yep.
Thank you. I think a follow-up could be that when we get that, one of us could request that it be put on the agenda of the in-camera meeting. It's something that we'd like to bring up as a group.
I think, yeah, when you get the information, you can make that communication proper channels to have it added and approved or denied depending upon the case.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Trustee Agnew.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. Just back to what Trustee Carabell was talking about. So what if it is, and totally understand what Superintendent Bukaj is saying, what if it isn't a confidential matter, but it's confidential for trustees to see? So so it may not come to an in-camera as stated because we do have staff that are there, but is there something to put in here that would outline, that would be very clear that if it is correspondence that is, because this is saying just not confidential, but what if it's confidential to trustees only? How is that, like, what's the, I don't want to say guarantee, but where's the provision that that is absolutely being shared with trustees?
Thank you, Trustee Agnew. Trustee Dwart, I think really it's up to you to answer that question right now.
Madam Chair, I think what I'm hearing from Trustee Agnew is what is the guarantee. So far, trustees have been receiving information marked confidential, and it has been sent to trustees. Trustees want to put in something here in writing, sure, but again, when you use the word guarantee, I'm not sure what guarantee.
So, Madam Chair, just for clarification, this is a policy that will outlast our current chair as well as, additional chairs. So I think when we look at this, we look at putting something forward that is just, for anybody that sort of comes into that role. And so what I'm saying is that while this may have been best practice so far, do we, further to Trustee Carabella's point, do we need to have something encapsulated where it talks about a way to ensure that ministry information is being shared with trustees? If it's confidential to trustees, then what's the mechanism by which that's being shared directly with trustees?
Okay, thank you, Trustee Agnew. Superintendent Bukaj, I'm just going to you for process now.
Thanks, Chair. I mean, trustees can propose an amendment. I'm just trying to work through what exactly we would be looking at because I'm not privy to confidential information that's specific to trustees. And so I would, I know that, I mean, we have our privacy policies and procedures, but this would be correspondence from the ministry to of a confidential nature to trustees. Do you have some language you wanted to propose, Trustee Agnew?
Yeah, it could be something as simple as that. It could just be something like all Ministry of Education, memorandums or communications that are confidential by nature, specific to the Board of Trustees, be shared in a confidential manner with the Board of Trustees, either via, whatever that, I don't know what that mode is, if it's hyperlink or if it's a document itself.
Thank you, Trustee Agnew. Claudia, did you get that?
Yeah.
I think the intention is to put it in the policy to say, okay, here's the scope of this particular correspondence that we are getting as trustees or chair. Director Klein.
Here's my question.
No, I think it was memorandums from the ministry. I think that's one of the things that Trustee Agnew mentioned, to ensure that, it's the scope is all memorandums from the ministry. Whether they're confidential, they have to go to us in a confidential email.
I don't think workshops are confidential. If that's the case, then we have a bigger problem. But yeah, I would think it would be anything that would be, memorandums or any type of communication directly from the ministry that is of confidential in nature, to specific to trustees. There'd just be a mechanism that's in here on how that will be shared.
Director Klein, here, all Ministry of Education memorandums or communications addressed to the Director of Education, Chair of the Board, or trustees that are not of a confidential nature shall be shared through a hyperlink on the board meeting agenda package.
It's going to be an additional point. It won't work with this existing point. It'll have to be a separate point.
You could say any that is of a confidential nature will be shared via confidential email, period. No? Trustee Agnew? I don't know what I just said, but it sounded pretty good when I said it.
Gabriella, is that kind of the spirit of what you were thinking as well?
Superintendent Bakaj.
Can I propose that we write something up, take a couple of minutes, and then we can bring it forward as an amendment? Okay, stay tuned.
3-minute recess. thank you, everybody, for that brief recess. Do we have some sort of information in writing that we can discuss and debate?
Chair, yes, Claudia is going to put it up on the screen for trustees.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Claudia. Okay, so I assume it's in blue. Yes, my glasses. Okay, so here is the proposal. Trustee Agnew and Trustee Carabella kind of talked about all Ministry of Education memorandums addressed to the Director of Education, Chair of the Board, or trustees that are of a confidential nature shall be shared by confidential email to trustees. Trustee Agnew, Trustee Carabella. Perfect. Okay. Does anyone want to discuss it, debate it, or shall we just go ahead and vote on it? Director Klein, would you like to speak to this? Are you okay with this? You're okay? Yeah? Okay. I've got hands up, Trustee Carabella, Trustee Kennedy, and Trustee Saunders. Is this in regards to the blue amendment? Okay. No? Okay. So let's go ahead and vote on the amendment if everyone's okay with that. Anyone opposed to that? Seeing none. Okay. Trustee Agnew. In favor. Thank you. Trustee Dwart.
In favor.
Trustee Carabella.
Favor.
Trustee Kelly.
Favor.
Trustee Kennedy.
In favor.
Trustee Murphy.
Favor.
Trustee Powell online.
Hi, I'm in favor.
Trustee Saunders.
Favor.
Trustee McGuire.
In favor.
And I know we have a couple absences. Okay, so that is unanimous. That addendum amendment will be added to this policy I-46. Thank you. Now we go back to the original policy that we've been discussing this evening. I do see Trustee Kennedy. Trustee Kennedy has his hand up.
You through, Madam Chair. So under, again, correspondence to and from trustees, last bullet point in red.
Yeah, we'll give Claudia a chance to catch up. Trustee Kennedy, what page, sorry?
Correspondence to and from trustees. They're up page 3 of 5.
Page 3 of 5?
Or 15 on the whole agenda.
Okay.
So.
Okay, we're getting there.
One more. There. So should a trust...
Oh.
Should a trustee receive correspondence from a parent guardian that contains personal sensitive information about their child, the correspondence will be forwarded to the appropriate family of school superintendent with a note indicating that the trustee will not be maintaining a copy of the email because it contains personal student information. So just walk through this example. So if a parent sends you sensitive information about their child, whatever that may be, we forward it to the superintendent. Do we then, are we supposed to CC the parent and then say, we're not going to be maintaining a copy of this? Or like, do we delete it from our deleted items? Like, how does that work?
Thank you for the question, Trustee Kennedy. Superintendent Greggs, would you like to over maybe that potential process?
Right. I think that what we had discussed about in the case where you'd have to delete it, that you would not be maintaining a copy, Andrea Swindon was going to provide a statement for trustees.
That's right, Superintendent Bakich. Ms. Swindon did say she would give us some sort of a template that we could put in our email to say, da-da-da-da, forward it on to the superintendent, and then you delete that original email. And then you would still be in the loop for whatever the incident was or the case was, so you could follow it through.
Should follow?
Yeah, sure.
Should we get the parents, I mean, I know that's the process, but should we get their permission before we forward an email that's sensitive about their child to the superintendent? I know that's the process, but should we say this is the process? May I have your permission to forward it to the superintendent in charge of the family and schools? And then forward it? Because they may not want that.
Trustee Kennedy, is Mark still on the line, or Superintendent Bakich, to talk to liability in that question?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. It's an interesting question. I don't, my view is that if they're sending something to you, you would need to send it to the superintendent so that person can address it. Sending it to you so the answer is no, you won't need consent. So to do that would be kind of expected.
Thank you, Mark, for that feedback. Trustee Kennedy?
No, that's great. Just generally with all these changes, is there a way to get some sort of just written when it's all said and done about the 5 things that are changing for trustees, just so there's a lot of different changes here, so nothing gets missed. I know you can't add it to the bylaws, but some sort of one-pager or something.
Thank you, Trustee Kennedy. Superintendent Bakaicher, Director Klein, maybe like a one-pager for us is not a bad idea, right? To say, okay, these things have changed. Remember when you're doing this to do this, this, and this, to keep us out of trouble.
Trustee Kennedy, I think that's a great idea. Andrea and I can prepare something for you, for trustees.
Awesome. Trustee Carabella.
Thank you, through Madam Chair. So, same, where are we now? It's the one about, well, we just were dealing with it, about sending the memorandums. And I really do believe that we should add the word next in there, shared through a hyperlink at the next board meeting agenda package, and be specific and not leave it.
Okay, Trustee Carabella, let me just, okay, there's the bullet point.
It's the correspondence addressed to staff and trustees, the last bullet point, the one we were just working on. All Ministry of Education memorandums and communications addressed to the director.
Shall we share it through a hyperlink at the
next
scheduled board meeting agenda?
Yeah.
Next available? Next.
Through you, Chair, I mean, yeah, because
Well, you could get it at the end of the day when you're doing the agenda for them, so that's not available. That's not realistic, right? You could have already set so it would be the next board meeting, the next available.
I think we want the word reasonable in here with at a reasonable juncture or something like that. I'm at a loss right now, but if you had it 48 hours before, then we might not be able to do it at the next one, right? Or a matter of hours before, which sometimes happens. Chair Duar.
Thank you, Director Klein. Trustee Duar.
Chair, our bylaws speak to the addition of the correspondence. There's a cutoff time of 3 p.m. the previous day, so we stick to that. Yeah. So if we receive correspondence before 3 p.m., gets added. If it does not, then it goes to the next board meeting.
So, Trustee, do you think that would happen organically then?
It's always been happening that way, Madam Chair, and that's the system.
Okay, Trustee Carabella?
So if you put next available, that would work. You say next available, and we got it on Monday at 4 p.m., so the next available would be 2 weeks from.
Correct.
Yeah. 4 weeks.
I think it's just keeping, like Trustee Agnew said, it's way ahead of us when we're all gone, right? That keeps that kind of consistency. So that amendment would be next. So you've moved that, Trustee Carabella? Yes. Could I get a seconder? Or unless we have a friendly amendment, we don't have to do all that. Is anyone opposed to that? Speak now? No? Okay. Pardon? Thank you. Shall be shared through a hyperlink on the next available board meeting agenda package. Okay. I like it. We don't even have to vote because it's a friendly amendment. I'm saying it on record. Absolutely, Trustee Aiken.
Thank you. So just a question on, I'm totally fine with that. So now that we've moved to monthly board meetings, should this not be shared with trustees in advance of that? So it may not go into a board meeting package, but will this information be shared with trustees in advance of that next board meeting, or do we have to wait a month and a week or so to get that information?
Trustee Agnew, over to Trustee Dwart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think trustees should have that information because some of them can be time sensitive. I think information can be shared with all trustees right away, but it has to be in the package at some point in time as a documented thing.
So can we add that wording then? Something where it'll be shared with trustees upon receipt, directly to trustees upon receipt, and will be further shared through a hyperlink, or will be also shared through a hyperlink at the next available board meeting. Just something that ensures that trustees will receive it and they don't have to wait until that board meeting to get that hyperlink.
Thank you, Trustee Agnew. So what would that paragraph look like? What do you want to add there?
think it would be of not a confidential nature shall be shared with trustees upon receipt, right, of said communicating, whatever, I'm using legal language, sorry. Upon receipt, however you want to say that, and then further, that information will be shared through a hyperlink.
Thank you, Trustee Agnew. So
Something to that effect.
Trustee Duarte, is this just reemphasizing what you're currently doing, or is there a change to current process?
Right now, it gets added to the package. Trustees generally get correspondence directly from Ministry's OCSTA. And only thing is we have not planned for board meetings to be, when this policy was written, it was meant for a monthly meeting. So I think trustees need to have information as we get it. And I think modifying this word will help. Trustees upon receipt. I think it's okay, yeah.
And through, with trustees upon receipt, and through, I don't know if we need further, Trustee Agnew, what do you think?
No, I think it would be and through a hyperlink on the next.
And through.
Or just could be, and through a hyperlink at the next, yep.
100%. Shall be shared with trustees upon receipt and through a hyperlink on the next available board meeting. So that, I think, ensures that trustees get the information in a timely manner, and then it's also at the board meeting in the agenda documented for all of our stakeholders to see. I think it's kind of a win-win.
Just,
Yes, Trustee Duarte.
as you mentioned, it's shared with trustees in a timely manner, rather than upon receipt. I'm not sure.
Just timely subjective, so I'm just.
It's fine, leave it, Madam Chair.
Okay. So going back to Trustee Agnew, with trustees upon receipt and, do we need to move in second? Is this a friendly amendment? Is anyone opposed? I need to follow process. Okay. Friendly amendment? Fantastic. Okay. Trustee Agnew, any follow-up or anything? Good, okay. Trustee Carabella? Your hand is up? No, it's not. All right. Anyone online? I don't see any hands up online. I don't want to forget about our online.
All good.
Awesome, thank you, Mr. Powell. Let us move forward, and we're going to vote on this. Okay, you ready? Okay. So now we're voting on this policy as amended through an actual formal amendment and a couple of friendly amendments. So we're voting on policy I-46 with all the amendments. Trustee McGuire.
In favor.
Trustee Saunders.
Opposed.
Trustee Powell.
In favor.
Trustee Murphy.
I'll abstain.
Trustee Kennedy.
Opposed.
Trustee Kelly.
In favor.
Trustee Carabella.
Opposed.
Trustee Duarte.
In favor.
Trustee Agnew.
In favor.
I'm also in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor, 3 opposed, 1 abstention. This policy passes. The policy will be brought forward to the December 17, 2024 regular board meeting. Thank you, everyone. That was a lot of good work. Okay, moving on to item 6.4, which is policy II-23 childcare facilities. Trustees, can I please have someone move that the policy committee recommends that policy II-23 childcare facilities be forwarded to the December 17, 2024 regular board meeting. May I please have a mover? Trustee Duarte. Could I have a seconder?
I can second. Powell.
Powell. Superintendent Merrick, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of housekeeping changes to the policy, but here tonight to answer any questions that trustees may have on this policy.
Thank you, Superintendent Merrick. Trustees, I will now open the floor to any questions. Okay, seeing no questions, we will now move into a recorded vote. Trustee Duarte.
In favor.
Trustee Carabella.
In favor.
Trustee Agnew.
In favor.
Trustee Kennedy.
Favor.
Trustee Kelly.
In favor.
Trustee Murphy,
In favor.
Trustee Powell,
In favor.
Trustee Saunders,
In favor.
Trustee McGuire.
In favor.
I am also in favor. This passes. This policy will be brought forward to the December 17, 2024 regular board meeting. Okay, moving on to item number 7, discussion items. There are no discussion items this evening. Moving over to item number 8, information items. Items 8.1 to 8.3 are the administrative procedures provided for your information. These were already approved December the 2nd, 2024 at the senior administrative meeting. Item 8.4 lists the upcoming agenda items for the next policy committee meeting in the new year. Wow, on January 14, 2025. Okay, item number 9, there is no miscellaneous information that I've received, just double checking. I don't think we have any. Item number 10, correspondence. I do not have any correspondence. Item number 11, in camera. There is no in-camera agenda this evening. So we move on to item number 12, motion to excuse absent committee members. May I please have a mover to excuse Trustee Filbert and Trustee Yeboah? May I have a mover? Trustee Saunders, may I have a seconder? Arabella, thank you. All in favor? Anyone opposed? I don't see anyone opposed. I don't see anyone opposed online. Thank you. May I please have a motion to adjourn? I please have a need to mower. Oh my goodness. May I please have a mover? Move it. Thank you, Trustee Murphy. My brain went faster than my mouth. May I please have a seconder? Trustee Carabella? All in favor? I don't see anyone opposed. Thank you very much. Trustee Powell, we will end the meeting with a closing prayer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just actually just wanted to read something that my mom shared today, and it was from Pope Francis. So if you'll just please join me in the sign of our faith, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Pope Francis offered this prayer in a video released on Tuesday to accompany his intention for December, which is the opening of the 2025 Jubilee of Hope on Christmas Eve. He lamented the suffering afflicting our world, saying humanity has great need of hope. Christian hope is a gift from God that fills our lives with joy, says the Pope, calling hope an anchor for our lives. We have to hold on to the rope of hope. Hold on tight, he urges. Pope Francis went on to invite Christians to allow God to fill our lives with hope so that we may become gifts of hope for everyone around us. He says, let us help each other discover this encounter with Christ who gives us life, and let us set out on a journey as pilgrims of hope to celebrate that life. And entering into the upcoming Jubilee is the next stage within that life. As the Church prepares for the Jubilee, Catholics are called to become pilgrims of hope, which forms the theme for the 2025 Holy Year. And don't forget, says the Pope, hope never disappoints. So it's not really prayer, but it's more of a statement. So that's all. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Okay.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Thank you, everyone. Have a safe night. Be careful driving home. It's very wet out there.